Just as a side note, before beginning the homily, I find always this gospel quite interesting and kind of humorous. Because if you see in that gospel, the wife of Zechariah is asked, what name will the child have? Without hesitation, she says, he will be called John. Now, in Old Testament times, that wasn't the person that gave the name. It was usually the male. And so they go to Zechariah. And he's been deaf or couldn't hear for various reasons of punishment and doubt that he had. And so he wrote it on the tablet. And without hesitation, he said, John will be his name. And I kind of found that humorous. He wouldn't dare to counteract his wife. He had to live with her, you know. And so you can see even that kind of a structure going on even in the New Testament. Several months ago, and I don't expect you to remember this, I gave a homily in which I asked us to see each other, to look at each other, and to see others as God sees them. And I used a phrase from a commercial which said, see me. Don't look at my blotches. Don't look at my weaknesses, but see me. Not how I look, not how I appear, not how you want me to be, but see me for who I am, a beloved child of God. Today, I ask us to look at ourselves again and ask ourselves whether we can honestly, sincerely repeat the responsorial psalms, the words found in the responsorial psalm, and truly believe what those words say. I praise you, for I am wonderfully made. Let's say it together. I praise you, for I am wonderfully made. Did that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable? Yeah, probably. We are not accustomed to accept and see the wonderful creation we are in the eyes of God. We too often reflect on our faults, and there's many. And we can be assured if we don't know our own faults, somebody will make sure to tell us. We have been too often reminded through our ancestors, Adam and Eve, how they messed up the whole human race, and therefore, somehow, through original sin, we're all messed up too. But the original sin did not and could ever erase the truth that we are still wonderfully made. So many people in our modern world, I believe, really suffer from poor self-image. We just don't have a good self-image sometimes. For me, it's sad to think of how many parents over the years that I've known and met and talked to who think they are not good parents, that they fail too often. I think of how many teens over the years that I've known who just say to me, Father, I don't think I'm as cool enough. I'm not like the other kids with all their talent. How many workers feel what they do is insignificant? How many think that they are not so good looking? How many people think everyone is smarter than they are? And how many think that they will be happier if they possess more material things? And how many good people think they're not as holy as someone else they know? The sad part is that we too often look for approval and affirmation about who we are from the wrong sources. Ask Jesus what he thinks, and we will hear, you are my beloved child, and you are wonderfully made. The problem is, will we truly, in the depths of ourselves, believe that? Several years ago, in the late 70s, I was still a member of the Salesian Order of St. John Bosco, and I was assigned to a parish in Laredo, Texas. And while there, I was invited to become deeply involved as a chaplain in a retreat program for youth, ages 17 and above. The program was closely modeled after and approved even by the adult Cursillo movement. In working closely with these young adults, I was saddened many times how many of them had such truly poor self-images. Many came from dysfunctional families where they really desired to be accepted by their parents, but oftentimes felt rejected, felt being a nuisance to their parents and a problem only. Many were caught up in a lifestyle where they looked and sought after acceptance in the wrong places, in gangs, taking drugs and alcohol. Many were stereotyped for the clothes that they wore, the accent that they had, the length of their hair, or where they lived, in what part of town they lived. They just didn't feel good about themselves. Aware of this, I often did an exercise with them. And every time I did this exercise with a new group of young people, I got a lot of rolled eyes. I got a lot of rolled eyes in the beginning. I would ask them to pretend that they had a mirror in their hand and held it out, was looking into the mirror. And I asked them to look into the mirror and ask themselves how they thought God saw them. Didn't comment on it. I just said, how do you think God sees you right now? After a while, I told them to look again at the mirror and now listen carefully. And I would say very slowly, you are a beloved child. You are wonderfully made. And one more time, I would ask them to look again. And then I did something that you'd think these 17-year-old kids and above would have run me out of town or would have said, you gotta be kidding. But I told them, now as you hold the mirror, pinch your cheek and say, que chulo soy, que chula soy. How cute I am is the literal translation. How beautiful I am. And I asked them, whenever they felt bad about themselves, when they felt rejected at home, or they were confused on the streets, and they didn't know really who they were and whether they were worth a whole lot, I said, go to the mirror and pinch that cheek again and remember that you are a child of God and so wonderfully made. And you know, at first, I'm sure they were kind of caught off by that. Then, and many of them began to tell me that that little sign encouraged them so often at school when they would run into other brother or sister that they'd been in a retreat with, and you could see they're going through some struggle or uncertainty. Never said a word. All they did was, and it was a great message that they carried on. Today's responsorial psalm that was beautifully sung a little while ago can be a wonderful prayer that we could say every day. And I repeat this psalm, most of it. I praise you, for I am wonderfully made. O Lord, you have probed me. You know me. You know where I sit and stand. You understand my thoughts from afar. With all my ways, you are so familiar. You have formed me in my inmost being. You knit me in my mother's womb. I give you thanks that I am fearfully, wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. I praise you, for I am wonderfully made. Today we celebrate the feast of John the Baptist, the Nativity of John the Baptist. John the Baptist couldn't have had, in many times and for many reasons, a good self-image. After all, he ate some pretty weird food. He dressed pretty strange. He looked like he had just come out of the jungle somewhere, because living in the desert, he was not very clean. His hair was out of control. And he was calling people to repentance and talking about baptism and talking about the Messiah was coming. But you know, one thing you can say about John Baptist, he knew who he was. He knew he was a child of God. Even many others didn't. But he knew he was a child of God. And he was wonderfully made. And that is why he could say so convincingly, this is the one who has come. This is Jesus, the Messiah.